Well, as we come off graduation season here on the Suncoast, many graduates are going to be sitting down with potential employers for their first round of job interviews. Well, let's hope they all go a little better than this. A woman interviewed for a job at a food delivery company called Skip the Dishes. And afterward, she sent a follow-up with a question about pay and benefits. She later received a short rejection email. Your questions reveal that your priorities are not in sync with those of Skip the Dishes. At this time, we will not be following through with our meeting this Thursday.
Ugh.
Whoa. So here's the question. Is it okay to talk about payment at an interview?
What are we working for? I'm not coming to work for you as a charity. I'm coming to earn money. I think you put your cards on the table. And obviously that wasn't a company that woman should work for.
Yeah, I mean, whoever that Victoria was that wrote that, she really needs to go through like management training, because everything in that was condescending and horrifying. Why wouldn't you ask for what you deserve? I mean, that's the whole thing.
She kind of skipped the worst job of her life.
Yes,
Yes.
skip the dishes, right?
Because, I mean, that's kind of the beginning place. I mean, one of the first questions I ask is, what are your salary expectations? So we don't waste each other's time.
Yes.
Why go through this
Yes.
whole process if you can't meet at a place that you know you're going to get to a positive outcome?
Yeah.
And if she was going to see this woman again on Thursday, it would have wasted the employer's time if the woman wasn't going to accept the salary.
I just don't get it. I mean, first of all, this is statistically, men typically ask up in advance what they want, and they want to ask what the pay is. But for a woman to do it, and we learned this with the whole book, Lean In, with Sheryl Sandberg, that women statistically undervalue themselves and ask for less, even when they do actually come out and ask for it. But at the same time, sometimes they don't even ask. So it's kind of like, this is incredible. And again, I want to like go shout out at Victoria, because that was just absolutely rude, you know. But at the end of the day, yeah, you should have this. And if I use a website or a recruiting agency to hire somebody of value, I absolutely have to put exactly how much I'm going to pay, and all of that is put out there, and then that becomes negotiable. So why isn't that the same case for everything? I mean, if that's what we're having to do.
Although I will say,
recruiters.
people are leaning in. And I think it's the younger generation. I sound like one of these people back in my day, but it's interesting to me. I do interviews a lot, and they're leaning in big time because you ask their salary requirements, and usually I had to stop myself from believing them. Because I would get these astronomical, and I was like, no. But it got it out there, and we could have I could say, well, if you're real about that number, then we shouldn't continue this conversation, which is a whole different thing. We're saying, I'm respecting your time. Inevitably, they're usually like, well, you know, not really real. What were you?
I've actually found that to be a difficult question to answer. And it's been a
too.
couple years since I've been in the job market search. But when they would say, what's your expected salary range? And it was often a field you couldn't skip.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to lowball myself, but I also didn't. I almost wanted to know, what is the range that I can work in?
Well, I
That's a
always
tough
highball
question.
myself, probably.
Yeah.
So I always say this is it. But of course, if the job and the position is, something that I really want to pursue, and I like the crew that I'm working with, then everything is negotiable, because you have stock options sometimes. You have lots of different options that actually pertain to not less money in your pocket, but can work out other ways. And especially like if I'm negotiating a job for a film, I will say, what is your budget? Because I want to make sure that if I'm not doing anything, I can be a part of this project. But if I'm booked somewhere else, I want to make sure that your budget isn't so low that if I do it, I set a precedence for our relationship in the future.
Sure.
So honesty and just transparency, I think, is the best way to go.
Great advice, too, as people are heading out into the job market, whether they're graduates or if they're later in life. This is good advice. All right, well, coming up next, we're going to get ready for the Sarasota Tarpon Tournament, and it's a little tougher than we think.